Welcome to Five or Flop, a podcast for the best and worst historical fiction has to offer. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm Grace, and each week we're reading a different historical fiction book to see if they're a five or a flop.
Our theme for season 4 is Reading Rainbow, which means LGBTQ plus books this season. And today we're reading Under the Udala Tree by Chinelo, Okparanta.
Erin.
Yes.
What's up? How you been?
Well, I have had a very exciting weekend because it has been the first friend group engagement that I've had.
Not me.
Not Grace.
In case you were wondering.
It's not Grace. It's also not myself. It's our friends Matt and Keelan. So we all kind of saw it coming. They've been dating for 5 years. So it wasn't a surprise. However, we are all super, super excited. We got to have an engagement party this weekend. I won't say it got rained out because we still continued and we had a lovely tent set up, but we did get 2 very, very severe hard bursts of rain while we were there.
Not fun.
But we were all surrounded by the snack table, or surrounded around the snack table, all hanging out together. So it really made it made it better. It was quick too. And then we just kind of got on with it and wound up going out later that night. It was really exciting.
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So that was lovely. What about you?
Well, following the theme of love and also the theme of Reading Rainbow, Pride is this weekend in DC. It's going to be big this year because it's World Pride.
It is.
And the parade does run down the street outside my house. So I have been looking to see what roads are being closed. Our condo office is not open, which doesn't surprise me because they love to close.
It also is a Saturday.
Well, they're closing on the Friday.
Oh, in celebration, of course.
They love to close, as I said. So I'm just making sure that logistically we have that handled.
And what Grace hasn't told you is that she's actually scoping out a spot to watch me because I'm going to be in the parade. My work does a float every single year, and then my team this year is making a video for it. So I'm going to help ask interview questions and then also walk the 1.8-mile route that starts across the street from my apartment and ends 1.8 miles away from my apartment.
And then are you going to run back because you're such a fast Strava runner?
I hit 10 minutes, 20 seconds, which is a pretty big deal for me. I'm kind of a speed demon. What can I say? No, but I am going to walk back because I figured the metro is going to be a shit show after that.
Oh my gosh.
And there's no way I can get an Uber.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to walk back and I will be logging the entire parade and also the entire return parade, i.e. me walking back to my apartment on Strava.
Well, please don't forget to drink your electrolytes.
Oh, I will be drinking lots of electrolytes and lots of water because it is they want me to get there at 1 p.m. and then they say, okay, end time is probably 8 p.m.
And
it's on a Saturday. And supposedly there's going to be thunderstorms. So we're going to see what happens there.
Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, because we also have very, very expensive camera equipment. That's going to be the other part of my job, is holding an umbrella over the camera.
Okay.
Yes. So getting ready for that. But in the meantime, before Pride, what are you reading this week?
I, last week, told you guys that I was reading The Power Broker, which was the 1,200-page biography of Robert Moses. I did finish it, so I feel very accomplished. I don't have anything else to bring up in the meantime because I was so dedicated to grinding it out on that.
I was going to say you probably need a hot second. What'd you rate it, though?
I think 4.75. The only reason I docked points is because there were obviously, he was the city planner for New York, so there was a lot of minutia about highways, which is very important information, but not particularly scintillating information.
A la Fellow Travelers.
However, it was an extremely well-researched book.
Okay, that's good.
So, big thumbs up. And apparently, the book came out in 1974 or something, and it only got an ebook edition last year.
Wow.
Because the guy who wrote it is just very much he's one of those old guys who's I think you should be reading books on paper, blah, blah, blah.
He would hate my audiobooks.
Well, I would much rather read a 1,200-page book on something the size of a Kindle.
Yeah, because hauling that shit around, imagine trying to read that in the bathtub.
You can't. You just can't.
It's going to be like what I talked about with Bridgerton, when the sides of the book makes my hand uncomfortable with romance novels.
Yeah.
It would be like that.
Yeah. What about you? What are you reading?
So also to follow up on something we've talked about previously, I finished Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I was sobbing 20 pages into the book, and that kind of just continued throughout the entire book. Now I'm reading the sequel, Fly Away. I can't say why I don't like it as much because it will spoil the ending of the first one, so I'm not going to do that. It's not a pod book, so I won't be spoiling. However, I don't like it as much. I still really like it. There are a lot, there were heavy topics in the first book. There's a lot of additional other heavy topics that hit me a little bit more while I'm reading this one. Again, not the fault of the book or anything. It's just a little bit more difficult of a read for me. But I am really enjoying it so far. I am, like all of my Kristen Hanna reads, I am whipping through it. So,
well, congratulations to Ms. Hanna.
Yeah, congratulations once again, friend of the pod.
Should we talk about this week's book?
Yeah, Under the Udala Tree.
All right.
Oh,
I think it's Udala Trees.
Brief disclaimer, I might have said Under the Udala Tree at the beginning. We do now see it might be trees plural. So that is on me. So if I misspoke in the title, it will be labeled correctly on the episode that you are listening to. Synopsis time. Ijoma comes of age as her nation does. Born before independence, she is 11 when civil war breaks out in the young Republic of Nigeria. Sent away to safety, she meets another displaced child, and they, star-crossed, fall in love. They are from different ethnic communities. They are also both girls. When their love is discovered, Ijoma learns that she will have to hide this part of herself. But there is a cost to living inside a lie.
Great synopsis.
Yeah, short, sweet, love it.
And also, I really enjoyed reading this book because it covers the same rough event time period as did Half of a Yellow Sun a couple seasons ago. And we haven't had a lot of repeat events except for World War II.
Yeah.
So I was happy to read like another perspective on the same thing.
Yeah, it was kind of exciting. And especially, I mean, in America, you don't have too many books about the Nigerian Civil War.
No.
So I think it's always good to learn more about events we've learned a little bit about in the past, but from a new perspective.
Yeah. And Half of a Yellow Sun was kind of about the lead up to the war and during the war itself. Mm-hmm. This book took place mostly after.
Yeah, kind of on the tail end.
Yeah, so it's kind of a continuation.
All right. Let's talk about Chinelo Okparanta.
Let's.
So, she was born in Nigeria, but she came to the U.S. for her schooling. She went to Penn State, got her MA from Rutgers, and her MFA from the Iowa Writers Workshop. Which, fun fact, that was my dream program when I was in middle school. And my mom's going to laugh when she's listening to this because I did do a summer writing program there in Iowa. And everyone was like, what the fuck is in Iowa? And I'm like, only the best writing program in the world.
All the good writers.
And I literally just told Santiago probably the day before we did this research. I'm like, if money was no object for me and I could like quit my job, all of that, I would go get my MFA at the Iowa Writers Workshop.
Just like Chinelo Okparanta.
If only I could be as good as her. But yes. So she's currently the director of the creative writing program at Swarthmore College.
Oh.
She's won or been a finalist for several awards. I'm not going to list them out here. But she was actually a judge for the 2018 National Book Awards.
Oh.
I looked to see if we had any, I know you're looking it up right now. I looked to see if there were any pod books because I think we've had some National Book Award winners on here before.
I'm pretty sure we have.
But none were that year, unfortunately, because that would have been a phenomenal coincidence.
Well, that's very unfortunate. Oh, you're right. I haven't read any of these.
I know. At first I was like, the National Book Awards, was that the Luminaries? But no, that was, what was that one? What was the Luminaries?
Oh, The Man Booker.
The Man Booker, thank you. So her debut, Happiness Like Water, is a collection of short stories focused on Nigerian women, and her latest book, Harry Sylvester Bird, came out in 2022 and is about a white man who falls in love with a Nigerian woman. So kind of still exploring themes of, Nigerian heritage, but through a very different lens than this book does.
Okay.
Have you read anything else by this author?
No, and I actually had not heard of her before.
I had heard of Happiness Like Water. I want to say maybe I read part of an excerpt from it, something, when I was in school, because that title is like so familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking maybe I read one of the stories in it. I can't remember though, but I do know that title for sure. I don't think any of these have been adapted for, movies or TV. But
Not yet.
Not yet. I could kind of see something padded that way, though, for her. But
yeah, this would be a good miniseries, I think.
I think this would be a really good miniseries. But anyways.
Let's get into it. Do you want to share our disclaimer?
Yes. Our judgments come based on the book and character within the book rather than any real historical figures they may have been based on, and spoilers ahead.
Where should we start?
So this conversation is kind of going to echo Cantoras a little bit opposite.
Yeah.
So I really, really liked this one. Grace.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah. Kind of exactly like how we were divided before. I will share a little funny story before we get into anything about how I started with this book. So I started with it on audiobook with Libby. And then something was glitching out with my account, and every time I opened the app, it was making me add my library card and like wouldn't let me play the book. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing this. So then I got the hardback. So I kind of started over, kind of skimmed the beginning a bit and went through. So I did read the beginning like twice, which is, you know, it happens to the best of us. But then I realized my Libby had been, so I went to college in DC, went home for a little bit because of COVID, and then moved back to DC. Mm-hmm. So I had a library card from undergrad that was somehow still hooked up to my Libby, even though it expired like years ago.
Oh.
And now it will not let me remove Under the Udala Trees from my account. Like, it is permanently on my Libby, and I can't get rid of it. And also, I keep now getting emails that library card is about to expire, even though I don't have it anymore, and it did expire like 2 years ago.
Well, I hope that also doesn't affect like other innocent people in the library system trying to check out Under the Udala Trees.
I know. So if you are in the queue for this audiobook, I am sorry because it might be my fault that you never get it.
Well, and obviously hundreds of people are going to go to check this book out once they listen to this episode.
I know. We have had, I think, one episode crack 100 listeners. So could be this one, could be the next. But also Libby typically auto returns, like once you hit that period. And I've had this checked out for months now.
It must just be in the app.
Yeah, it doesn't show up on my library account anywhere.
Huh.
So I don't know what's happening. But anyways, that was my fun experience. Much like Cantoras, I had a difficult time accessing this one.
This really is the season of weird library shenanigans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it going to stop us from using the library? No.
No, we're number one library supporters here. Anyways, so let's get back to this book. Where do you want to start now that I've shared my story?
Let's talk about the organization and the pacing.
Okay.
This is a big thing for us. However, I don't think we've had that much to say about it this season. I think most of the books were like, this is paced fine.
I think Cantoras was the only one that I said anything.
Yeah, maybe Lady for a Duke a little bit, but we haven't harped on it.
That was more the length of the book, though.
Okay, we haven't harped on it in the way that we used to. In this case, that was one of the big things that to me did not work.
Which is so funny because I'm usually the harper there. And it really worked for me here, and I really liked it.
I really am putting on my Erin hat.
Let's talk a little bit about why you didn't like it.
Well, the book is kind of divided into like 3 parts. The first part is the one that's kind of set during the war itself and not in its aftermath.
It's Ijeoma's childhood.
It's Ijeoma's childhood. She's at home with her parents. Her father is killed pretty early, and it's her and her mother. Mm-hmm. And it becomes clear quickly that the mother cannot handle having her.
No, her mother is clearly severely depressed after her father dies. Cannot.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of money issues because they are, still at the very tail end of the Civil War. There's a lot going on.
So the mother takes Ijeoma, drops her off to work as kind of a servant girl in the home of a school teacher and his wife who have no children, and leaves. That's part 1. There was nothing really wrong here, except to me, it's a little bit lengthy. And the premise of this book, like you heard the synopsis, is about her and her difficulties being a queer woman in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And I was just not sure. I was like, I know this information will lead me to something, but I don't know what. Like, I had a hard time anticipating.
That's a fair assumption.
And then, so at the end of part 1, she gets dropped off at the school teacher's house. So I assume that part 2 is going to be about her time with the school teacher. We skip all of it. You don't see any of it. Mm-hmm. It's 2.5 years of her life when she's 9 or 10. Like, that's really, really crucial time. Mm-hmm. But then you do learn that the secondary character that we heard about in the synopsis, Amina, has also been staying at the house of the school teacher. And at the end of Ijeoma's time there was an incident with her and Amina. Mm-hmm. You assume it is something of the queer romantic variety, but you don't hear about it explicitly for a really long time. Mm-hmm. So we've skipped over all this important context, and then this defining incident with Amina, they keep referencing it without telling you what it is, which I feel like is a trick that they do in like thrillers and stuff to build tension. Mm-hmm. But because the first part had done nothing to establish the direction of the book, I was just confused. Like, I just wasn't sure. For a really long time, maybe half of this book, I had no idea where it was going or what the point was. Like, and at almost any point, it was hard for me to really wrap my head around where the story was going.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we do flashback to the school teacher's house.
Yes, eventually, but also kind of in little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I had assumed that the bulk of the book would take place there, but actually quite little of it did. Mm-hmm. She and Amina go off to boarding school together.
Yeah, that was part of the deal, was that if her mother sent her to live with the school teacher, he was going to pay for her schooling. Mm-hmm. And then what eventually, and this happens in one of the flashbacks, Ijoma meets Amina under the Udala Trees is where she meets her.
Hence title.
Hence the title. And that, as their meeting spot, does come into play a couple other times in the book. And she brings Amina back with her to the school teacher's house. Amina has no family. We assume she lost it in the war.
Yeah, they're up north where the fighting is. The book takes place in the south. Mm-hmm. And you don't ever really get confirmation that Amina's family is gone, but she never finds them again. Yeah. So that's the confirmation.
So they kind of have the same deal for Amina. They'll send her to school. But once the girls are separated, Amina stays with the school teacher.
And that, to me, I also thought was contrived because the school teacher didn't like her mm-hmm. and didn't really feel any obligation towards her. I felt like he only ended up sending Amina to school so that Ijoma and Amina ended up in the same place again. I can kind of overlook that.
I choose to overlook that. From my understanding, he kept her on because they needed, a servant.
I guess so.
And then, in my head, maybe they had, it seems like they did develop more of a relation, a familial type of relationship with her based on, how they interact with her, with Amina at school. So, I'm kind of fine with that development being left off the plot.
I guess I would be more willing to overlook it had I had more in the book to really grab my attention, more positive things to say. And I don't even necessarily have an overwhelming negative opinion of this book. It just never clicked for me. Unfortunately, okay. I had that same kind of feeling that I had reading All the Light We Cannot See.
Yeah.
Where I was like, this book, there are clearly tons of other people who would like this. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't, for me, I feel no emotion towards it.
That's really fair. That's fair. For me, the pacing here, the skipping around works really well. I think especially because we jump so suddenly from her being, sent off to her mother, instills these really, really strict Bible lessons with her. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we start to piece, if we hadn't read the synopsis, that's where we would start to piece together something, happened with Amina.
Yeah.
Something of, a romantic, sexual, whatever nature.
Mm-hmm. And that actually was my favorite part of the book. Not necessarily those scenes with the mother mm-hmm. giving Ijoma Bible lessons, but the theme of how pervasively religion and a country and culture of religion can get into your head. So even though Ijoma is never a believer in these things, she doesn't believe that loving Amina makes her sinful, but you can see her doubting that just because of this unrelenting message from everyone else around her mm-hmm. that it is sinful. And I thought that was done really, really well.
No, I completely agree with you. Those themes came across really, really strongly in those interactions with the mother. And as I'm sure we'll talk about later with Amina as well, she starts having very religiously coded nightmares after her and Ijoma develop their relationship more. And I think that theme is something that's really prevalent throughout without it being too obvious,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not too on the nose.
Yes, exactly.
I also enjoyed between Ijoma and Amina and another character from the third part that mm-hmm. we'll talk about. I felt like there was a realistic portrayal of someone's journey to be comfortable with their queerness in a country it's not a linear line.
Exactly.
They go back and forth. At one point, Ijoma is uncomfortable with continuing the relationship, and Amina is the one who wants to. That ends up flipping. Amina mm-hmm. does get married to a man at the end of the second part.
Yep. Pretty much right out of school.
Yeah. Because she feels safety in doing that.
Yes.
And she would rather just put Ijoma into her past, and they never really speak again.
No, not really.
And that was surprising to me too. I thought that Amina would be the through line of the whole book, but I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing that she wasn't. It was just another example of, I really can't tell where this is going.
I thought that was actually one of the biggest strengths in the book was that Amina was not the through line. I'm so jumping around right now because I still have stuff I want to say about pacing, but since we're going down this thread, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
In the way that it was a weakness in Gwen and Art that the characters stayed together.
Yes.
Because it's still like, this is, you know, her first love, her childhood crush. Is it really realistic that they would stay together and have like even if not like staying romantically as a couple, but staying like heavy parts of each other's lives? Is that super realistic? To me, it makes this book feel realer that their connection kind of fell off. And it made those journeys seem more lifelike to me as a reader. I thought it worked really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also the thing that we haven't said that it comes into play is you have written here is that they're not of the same people.
Yes.
Ijoma is Igbo, Amina is Hausa, and these are, you know, clearly, as we remember from Half of a Yellow Sun,
yes,
they groups that were on opposite sides of the Nigerian Civil War, of the Biafran War.
So it's more than even just a clash of, you know, queerness in a society that doesn't accept them. It's also like a very clear cultural clash that their families or, you know, Ijoma's mother and then the schoolmaster are picking up on and making very clear to them at the same time.
Yeah. And again, this isn't a theme that's super pushed, but it is present and you understand its context mixing in with everything else.
And even when Amina does get married, like all the adults are basically like, well, it's good she's with someone of her own kind. Like she's with another Hausa person.
Yeah. Yeah. So then that happens, that graduation, Amina going off and getting married marks the end of the second part. The third part is basically Ijoma's whole adulthood.
Yes.
It encompasses a very large swath of the book and also a much larger period of time than the other two parts. She lives with her mother for a while. She has a relationship with a woman. She ends up getting married to a man who was a friend of hers as a child. They have a baby. And in the end, Ijoma leaves him and takes their child, goes back to her mother, and is living as honestly as she can about who she is.
And even her mother, like, comes to terms with everything.
Yeah. And that seemed quick, but I think Chinelo Okparanta wrote it in such a way that I understood it. Through the entire book, the mother is pushing. Like in the beginning, clearly she's not a good mother in the beginning because she is mentally unstable and then she drops off her child somewhere and leaves. In the middle, she's not a good mother because she is afraid that her daughter is gay and she's trying to teach it out of her, essentially, which we all know does not work and is abusive and horrible. And then in her adulthood, she's really pushing, trying to get her married. She really encourages the relationship with this man. And finally, when Ijoma leaves her husband and comes back with the baby, the marriage has been hard the whole time, and the mom knows that. I think she finally just realizes, I can keep pushing and nothing will change. Like, there's not going to be a difference. Like, there's not an implication that she wouldn't change Ijoma's sexuality if she could. I think she still would. But she knows that there's nothing she can do about it. And so she's going to do her best to help Ijoma be happy anyway. Yeah,
I really liked the mother as a character for me. I mean, it's hard to say that because she was horrible for a large part of the book, right? But her journey is something I really liked. And I think you can really like a character who is not a good person. I think we've definitely talked about this before on the podcast at one point or another.
She has good utilitarian character purpose.
Yes. And I thought her evolution, like, I think where she starts and where she ends up makes sense.
I do think probably her role, this could have been expanded, which seems even crazy to say because she takes up so much of the space in the book. But even if the book was less about the external relationships and more about the mother-daughter relationship, we could have gotten an even more interesting evolution. Because what we got was good, but it was competing with a lot of other things. But that's clearly not what Chinelo Okparanta wanted to do. She wanted to tell more about Ijoma's like internal journey.
Which, let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I see you have a note that I just want to hear more about, the uneven journey of confidence and self-loathing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said before. Ijoma, she like when she and Amina reunite at boarding school, at first she's afraid to pursue that relationship. And then kind of once she has set the example she has a roommate who's like,
her roommate is slutting it up at the boys' school. I love that for her.
I was trying to think of like a nicer word than slut. Slut in a reclaimed way.
In a very feminist, modern way.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the book, she's sneaking out all the time. She's like, you need to get a rich boyfriend. Like, you need to have a boyfriend with money. And then later she's like, no, I've decided the money they're all pigs. You need to have a boyfriend who's nice to you. And she's so like, has this roster. So Ijoma is clearly like, okay, well, if you're doing all that, like,
yeah,
I can have a girlfriend.
What I'm doing is not that bad.
Yeah. But then, like I said, she and Amina kind of have this switch. And there are all these external events that you can see impacting it. It's over time, living with her mother kind of wears her down into the idea of entering into a straight marriage. She and her girlfriend that she has when she's home with her mother, whose name I
I cannot remember the mother's name either, so we will continue to call her the mother.
Yeah. Then they have this like secret little queer club that they go to in an abandoned church.
Yeah, and it turns into like a club. It's so cool.
Yeah, but then someone finds out about it and hate crime burns it down.
Yeah, there is some hate crime going on in the latter half of the book.
And that pulls Ijoma back from her queer community that she seems to have kind of set up. I really liked that portrayal of she goes through different phases of being comfortable with who she is and who she isn't, convincing herself that she can try and make her marriage work, realizing she can't, trying to make it work so that she can stay in her marriage when she has her baby, all of these different things. I think that characterization of Ijoma is strong.
And I think for me, this is why the pacing does work for me, because I think we need almost that like push and pull kind of pacing at the beginning, especially to show why she has this journey and why she's, having this internal struggle with her confidence and then being afraid. And it's because like all these steps she took along the way when like, and not even specifically related to her sexuality, but like her mother dropping her off and abandoning her, like that's gotta pull her back a bit. But then she has her, relationship with Amina where she progresses forward and then 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of the whole way. And for me, it was a nice parallel with the pacing. I do feel that this is not usually the kind of pacing I like.
Yeah, I like that this journey was here, but I do think it could have been paced better. I think it is a strength, like buoying up the pacing that I thought didn't work.
Okay, that's fair. I liked it, and I was surprised to like the pacing and the structure of this one. I really was, because it's not the kind I usually would. But I thought it was different. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the periods we kind of spent more time in, because I think also maybe from the perspective of Ijoma as a character, like those are the periods of her life that really like shaped her identity.
That's true.
And warranted more time on the page in her story.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I thought that balance was nice. And then her adulthood was kind of more flying by, and I feel like maybe that just is how it felt for her, too.
Well, you have something here about the symbolism, and I would like to hear more about that.
Yeah. So sticking with the theme of trees, I'm talking about the Udala tree and then the drunken tree from season 1. Both titular trees. I think they kind of function differently. In that Fruit of the Drunken Tree, we know the function on the page was, the fruit that was like
poison,
hallucinatory, all of that. But we never really clicked with the symbolic sense of it. Versus in this book, for me, there are a couple occasions where she either is meeting with Amina under a tree physically, or she like sees Amina under a tree. So the Udala tree itself, I looked into a bit more, and it's from like a folktale of the Nigerian people, and it's a symbol of female fertility too.
Oh,
which is kind of why it's more interesting as like a symbol of their relationship, because it's kind of like twisting that traditional ideal of like what femininity, what fertility means, and changing it to suit their relationship.
Interesting.
And for me, I don't know, I just thought it was a better symbol in comparison to the trees we have seen on the pod. Whereas Fruit of the Drunken Tree didn't really hold the same weight. Like, the Udala Trees made sense to me to be the title.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even they could have had their first meeting there and that was it. But I do like how it was a repeated theme and a repeated symbol, as opposed to Fruit of the Drunken Tree, where it's not really repeated.
Yeah.
It just kind of has that one function.
No, it came back.
Yeah.
It came back all the way through.
And I liked that. I liked that symbol of their relationship.
That's nice.
Yeah. I don't have a ton more to comment on this. I really liked it. I also can see why you didn't. I could see why some readers may not.
Yeah. If someone came up to me and said that they were planning to read this, I wouldn't tell them not to. Mm-hmm. But if someone said, oh, what book should I read from Pod Season 4? I wouldn't say this one.
And that's kind of how I feel with Cantoras. Mm-hmm. Almost the exact same thing. Like, it wouldn't be my recommendation, but, like, I would understand why someone would want to read it.
Well, do you want to tell me some more about the history and see if that changes my mind?
Yes. So I kind of split it into two areas. One is about the Nigerian War, which I'm going to pull from our document on Half of a Yellow Sun.
And just brief, because we've done that before.
And just briefly, not a ton of details. And then queerness in Nigeria today, because there is a note at the end of the book saying how, you know, homosexuality is still not accepted. It's in some states is punishable by death at the end of the book. So I did look into it. This book was a recent publication, but I decided to pull some more just to see if, you know, anything had been different. Mm-hmm. All right. So the Nigerian Civil War lasted from 1967 to 1970. So that's kind of when the book starts to take place. The Igbos declared Biafra when they felt they could no longer coexist with the Muslim Hausa population, mm-hmm. which is, again, part of that cultural conflict we see in this book. So along with the Vietnam War, this was one of the first wars to be televised for a global audience. It did result in continuing political marginalization. It did result in continuing political marginalization of the Igbos, and basically it was a result of colonialism, no surprise to anyone, which caused the three largest ethnic groups to be combined into a single state, which was traditionally not how they operated. Mm-hmm. There was a terrible famine caused by the war, which we see in this book in the early parts as well.
Yes, that was one of my notes. You don't get as much war stuff, especially through the beginning. The thing you hear the most is that they're lacking food.
Yes. So I think that's where I'll stop pretty much with the recap. If you want more in depth, you are encouraged to go back and listen to our Half of a Yellow Sun episode, where Grace and I also had differing opinions, I believe. But because this one wasn't so heavy on the war and the history necessarily, I'm going to leave it a little light there and talk more about queerness in Nigeria today. So LGBTQ rights have unfortunately really deteriorated and, as I said, are punishable by death in some states. And I have a couple websites I'm going to reference, which, Grace, I have them linked in the document, so you can both. And I believe these might have been similar sources to what we looked at for Uruguay the other week.
Oh.
Same-sex relations are illegal throughout the country. LGBTI orgs are not able to register. As I said, some same-sex relationships are punishable by death, and gender expressions that do not correspond with norms are typically outlawed. And then I have some more stuff. Gender-affirming care is restricted. Non-binary gender recognition is not legally recognized. There are no protections against employment discrimination, housing discrimination. It's illegal to serve in the military if you are queer. Donating blood is banned with a 5-year deferral. So I'm not quite sure what that, I guess, since your last acting on anything.
I guess.
Public opinion is really, really negative. About 85% say they would not accept homosexuals as neighbors. 97% oppose same-sex marriage. These stats are as of 2023. 94% find it unjustifiable. So just really, really severely bad. And that's why I also think this book is an important one to read, to hear these stories, to acknowledge the existence of individuals who are queer in Nigeria and in other countries where it is so discriminated against, that it is outright illegal and, you know, punishable by death in some areas.
Yeah, Chinelo Okparanta in her author's note explicitly said that she wanted to share the stories of queer Nigerians. And we'll link this this website in the show notes. It is, I think, the one that I looked at for Uruguay, but it's really bad. Nigeria gets a score of 8 out of a possible 100 in terms of LGBT friendliness, and they rank as number 182 on the list of LGBT friendly countries out of a total of 197. So that is, it barely can get worse.
Yeah. So I would encourage you, if this is, not the book for you, I would encourage you to maybe look at something like Happiness Like Water or other stories of queer Nigerians, just to give a voice and, some more understanding and just some more attention to LGBTQ groups in Nigeria and in other countries where it is not a safe space.
Wow.
So, ending on a downer note, should we go to the star calculator?
Yeah. I'll read the categories.
Thank you. I'm actually going to ask you to be in charge of this because you have your laptop and I have my phone.
I'll be in charge. The categories are historical accuracy, originality, characters, prose, and vibes. Erin, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I can go first. Historical accuracy, I'm going to give it a 4, just because, nothing is inaccurate, but there's just not a ton of history in there, which is fine. Originality, I give it a 5. Characters, I'm going to give it a 3. I didn't really talk about this. I wish Amina was a little bit more fleshed out.
Yeah, she was a little Bridget from Gwen and Art coded.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Prose, I liked the prose. I'm going to give it a 4. And I'll toss pacing into that category. Pacing was a little weird, but I did like it. It was good weird for me. Mm-hmm. And then vibes, I'm going to give it a 4 also.
That is an average of a 4.
Oh, wow. I had given this a 4.5 on Storygraph. So I think that's fair. This is fine leaning 5. For me, I count anything above a 4 pretty much. So more generous than Grace.
Well, I'll do my calculator. So for historical accuracy, I've given it a 3. I didn't go lower because nothing was wrong, but I just didn't get a ton of meat on the bone. Mm-hmm. I don't think this compares favorably to Half of a Yellow Sun if you're strictly looking for a historical heavy book.
Oh yeah.
If you want to learn more about the Nigerian Civil War, read that.
Yes.
I mean, also read nonfiction, watch a documentary, blah blah blah. If it's between these two books, read that.
Watch the movie of Half of a Yellow Sun that looks like a romance based on the cover.
Yes. Originality 4. I don't think it's quite a 5, but I do think it merits a 4. I think that's original enough. Characters 3. None of them stuck with me, but none of them are bad. Prose 4. I also liked it. I wrote that to me, it doesn't seem inaccessible, but it seems to me like a slightly elevated style of prose from a normal popular historical fiction book.
Oh, interesting. When you put it like that, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's not insanely fanciful. It's nothing like Eleanor Catton was pulling out in the Luminaries or anything, but it's not to the level of a book that you would buy at the airport either.
Yes.
And that's not disparaging because I love to read a book that you would buy at the airport.
Yes.
But for vibes, I gave it a 2. Unfortunately, for me, this just did not click with me, and it was brought down by the fact that I had to read it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help for the book. Yeah. That's a 3.2. On Storygraph, I think I gave this a 3.5.
Okay.
So that's what I would call it. I would call this fine. Yeah. I wouldn't call it a flop. I think it was written well enough. I didn't love the construction. I loved that the message and the goal of the author was felt. I think her mission was successful in that respect. Mm-hmm. But this just isn't my favorite.
Okay. And that's totally fair. That's how I felt with Cantoras.
Yeah.
So, all right. Would you like to share what we're reading next week?
Next week, we will be reading Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides.
Another Pulitzer Prize winner on the pod? Wow.
I was going to say, we will remember that this one is a Pulitzer winner, and we will not forget.
All right. And in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at @5orflop_pod. And make sure to participate in our Storygraph reading challenge for season 4, which, off the top of your head, do you know how far along it? We're over halfway.
Well, Middlesex is book number 10. So
holy shit.
We will be officially 2/3 done with the reading challenge as of next week.
As of when we record this in 5 minutes.
And don't forget, you can always send us an email at fiverrflawedpodcast@gmail.com or fill out the recommendation form that is linked in the bios of any of our social medias.
And until next time,
happy reading!
Bye!